Faith Dialogue, a public affairs program at the crossroads of religion and life, a series highlighting the cultural and social interaction between the worshiping and religious communities in and around the capital city. Austin Faith Dialogue is brought to you by the Austin Metropolitan Ministries in cooperation with KTVC. Join us now in Austin Faith Dialogue.
Helping others transcends questions of religion or nationality. In East Austin, many different groups provide services for those in need, and Austin Baptist Community Center and Austin Baptist Chapel are two of them. Hello, I'm Sarita Tamayo, member of St. Austin's Catholic Church, and your host for this edition of Austin Faith Dialogue. Today, as we discuss the various aspects of the Baptist Community Center and Austin Baptist Chapel, we will also address the problems of homelessness, the lack of good low-cost preschools, and the issues that arise when people deal with these sorts of problems. Our guests include Frank Deutsch, Director of Church Services and Christian Social Ministries for the Austin Baptist Association, Pat Musto, Director of the Baptist Community Center, and Conrad Gonzalez, a member of the University Catholic Center and a volunteer at Austin Baptist Chapel. We welcome you all. Now let's find out a little bit about each of you. Now, Frank, could you give us a brief description of your connection with Austin Baptist Association and what your job involves?
I'm Director of Church Services and Christian Social Ministries, and under Director of Church Services, that involves the educational part of our churches, the Sunday school, church training, the music, and those type of areas. And I serve, probably a good lay term would be as a consultant to try to help develop these programs in our churches. Christian Social Ministries, I help in working with the churches to develop programs to meet the physical needs of people.
And so this would be for all the churches in the area?
Yes, we have 98 Southern Baptist churches and missions in the Austin area, and I work with all of those.
Now, Pat, as the Director of the Baptist Community Center, what all does that involve, and how many aspects are there to the Baptist Community Center?
Well, the purpose of our ministry is to reach out to individuals in need and try to meet some of those needs, whether it's through a program or through assisting people in emergency situations like helping with food, rent assistance, utility assistance, or medications. But above all, we want to share Jesus and his love with the people that we come in contact with every day. And we have several aspects of our ministry: a preschool ministry, after school, a summer ministry, adult ministry, and a family services ministry.
That sounds really comprehensive. Goodness. Now, Conrad, I know you're a volunteer at Austin Baptist Chapel and a member at the University Catholic Center. You're also a student. And
right. I'm majoring in philosophy. I know Frank and the Austin Baptist Chapel through the Catholic Students Association. I'm sure you know a little bit about that.
Yes.
Through the service projects that we do. Going to help at the Austin Baptist Chapel is one of the traditional things that we do there. And that's how I know Frank. I don't know Pat. I just met her today. But I know Frank pretty well.
And where are you working somewhere this summer?
Oh, right now I'm interning with the Attorney General's office in the Child Support Enforcement Division.
That's wonderful.
Right.
Now, Pat, I thought we'd start with the Baptist Community Center. How old is the center? You were telling me it's about 45 to 55 years old.
Yes, at its present location, which is 2000 East 2nd Street, the ministry started there in 1945. And so that makes it about 44 years old. And then prior to that, it was started on East 1st Street in a white frame house, and it went there for about 10 years. So that makes it about 54 years old.
Was it always connected to the Austin Baptist Association, or did it start out of one church, or how did that?
Yes, it was.
And it was with the Austin Baptist Association?
Well, in the very beginning, it was started by the WMU of the Austin Baptist Association, which meant the women were the ones that really got it started. And then around about 1965, 66, it went under direct control of the Austin Baptist Association.
Frank, could you comment some on the way the Baptist Community Center has developed, what the trends have been?
Well, the community center, of course, was located in East Austin, but it services all of Austin people from any need that's met there. It's met because of the basic thrust that as Jesus would meet the needs of people first, then we would meet the needs of people in hopes that we can help them to help themselves eventually and then share Jesus with them.
So it's not really restricted to the neighborhood so much as people come in from all over Austin?
Yes. Although being in the neighborhood, we deal more with our neighborhood children and families there, but we do minister to all of Austin through there.
Conrad, as a student and as a volunteer, do you see an awareness among students, or do people not really realize that these needs exist and also there are ways to fulfill them?
I think the people that I've known through the CSA sort of go through a culture shock at first. Most of them happen to be freshmen or sophomores, and all they've seen is UT and that immediate area. And then we go on the other side of 35, and we go there to the soup kitchen, and they say, they look at these people and they realize, oh my gosh, there's people just like us, people our age, families, young girls, young boys, coming up because they're hungry. And in that way, they realize, gosh, I guess not everyone has it as good as we do. And one thing I want to say is that Frank really makes it fun there. We go, he makes it as user-friendly as possible. We just go over some simple health, city regulations, and we pretty much serve. The volunteers that go there, they help serve actually through a window. And you actually get to know some people on a regular basis through the window. And the people that work there, that volunteer there on a regular basis, are really nice. And it just makes you realize that very immediately and very effectively that there's people just like us out there that are simply hungry. And in that way, it has made the students aware. In fact, it's one of the more popular things that we do at the Catholic Students Association, is go to the Austin Baptist Chapel. I think we've been doing it now for 2 or 3 years on a monthly basis. So, yeah, in answer to your question, awareness has been built as a result of visiting the Austin Baptist Chapel.
Well, maybe now we can focus on the Baptist Chapel some more. It's only about 3 years old, I think.
We're on our 4th year now. We just finished the July 1st, actually, was the start of our 4th year. And it was began because of the fact that we became aware of that Caritas feeds lunch Monday through Friday, but there was no other facility where lunch was provided for the homeless and hungry of Austin. Salvation Army serves breakfast and supper, but they do at Thanksgiving and Christmas serve a complete meal at lunchtime. So because of that fact and because of the recession that hit Austin, there became an awful lot of families that became homeless or near homeless, and more like the invisible homeless. They moved in with others' families where there were 2 or 3 families in a house, and there was a shortage of food, so there was a need for some facility to feed them. So on a given Saturday or Sunday, we feed somewhere between 200 and 250 men, women, and children, homeless and hungry of Austin.
Could you describe a typical day? What exactly goes on at the soup kitchen at the Austin Baptist Chapel?
Okay. We have a Malta ministry there in that between 11 and 1 we serve a hot meal with dessert and iced tea and coffee and tortillas and bread and all they want to eat. And then we have a clothing room where we issue clothing to the people and some health and hygiene items. And then we have food boxes that we prepare and give to needy families that some of the social agencies send us because we are open on the weekend. Most social agencies, if not all of them, operate Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. But people become in need after 5 and on weekends and on holidays. There are long periods where our social agencies are closed.
So you're also open on holidays then, when Caritas is closed?
Right. We're open about 120 plus days a year. We fed about 25,000 last year.
Gosh. Did you have what is the high? Like
275, and that was Sunday week ago.
amazing.
I'd like to add that Frank has a policy there for every volunteer that works there at the soup kitchen. Help me out here, Frank. You say something to the effect that you would not, the food you prepare is good enough, should be good enough that Jesus Christ himself could eat it. And as a result, every volunteer is required to at least have a bowl. And I just like to attest that it's really good food. It's nothing left over or secondhand. It's quality food. So you know they're getting a good meal. I get a good meal every time I go there.
Our philosophy is to do the best that we can. And, you know, why fix something second best just because someone may be hungry or homeless? So, you know, that's sort of a philosophy in our work, is to fix the best soup that you can fix, no matter who you're serving.
Now, at the community center, how does the preschool operate? Is that, how do people get in, and what sorts of functions does it serve?
Okay, we have a half-day preschool program for our 4- and 5-year-old children. And this is sort of a service to the community to help prepare these little folks for the public school setting. And it is comparable to a more expensive one across town. It's only $3 to register and $12.50 a month. But like I said, it's a service to the community, and it really prepares them for that first school setting in the public schools. We're real proud of our program. Last year we had about 17 enrolled in our program. We graduated 14 at the end of the year in caps and gowns. Very smart group of children, very alert. And it's really a joy to see them, you know, develop during the year and develop those skills that they really need when they get into the public school.
So this is really a very good transition that they probably wouldn't otherwise get.
Right. And we are presently taking applications for this school year.
And what sorts of changes have you seen in the community at large?
Well, I have seen people more interested in education over the years. And because of that, they're getting better jobs and bettering themselves, which is really a joy to see. So I see a much more of an emphasis placed on the education by the young people, and as they graduate, then they put those values on their children as well.
Frank, could you describe the clientele at the soup kitchen? Do these people come, we talked about an economic squeeze earlier, do you see that as the primary reason, or are there other factors involved?
I think there are other factors that involve in that across America tonight we have about 3 million homeless. 1 million of those are children. And of course, when those children are homeless, they're not in school. If they are in school, it's very sporadic in school. So we're growing up a generation that will continue to follow the homeless type lifestyle. It's caused by several things. Our society as a whole has moved towards deinstitutionalizing of our folks that have mental problems, which creates a good portion of our homeless people that have retardation or whatever, but are able to meet the standards of taking care of themselves according to what the government says. We talked when 1962, when President Kennedy first started deinstitutionalizing America, about building halfway houses to meet those needs. We passed the laws, but we never passed the law with the money to build the halfway houses. And then with the downturn that we had in our economy, it forced a lot of families into be homeless. And of course, if you watch a family, as we do, that becomes homeless, it seems to be very rapid descent for them from a normal lifestyle. A month later, they're down to where no self-esteem. Our society is geared, if folks don't live in a house and don't have worldly things, we think they're not worth anything. And so we pass that off. Even as we pass homeless people on the street, we look down on them in our society. And so it's a degenerative factor that moves rapidly through homeless people. Most homeless people, if not all, do not have any self-esteem. after they've been out there for a short period of time.
Do you see also people like perhaps who only make minimum wage and it's not enough to live on? Is that a factor also?
Definitely. A lot of our single heads of household with 2 children working for minimum wage at some of our fast food places or whatever, and then have to pay daycare and rent, and then at the end of the month they do not have money for food. And so that's where our food pantries, both at the community center and at the chaplains, and a lot of our churches have food pantries, come in to help. But it's very hard to get ahead at our minimum wage as it is today, especially just for one person. But then you add on taking care of a child, and then if the child gets sick and you have a doctor bill and prescriptions, then something has to be left unpaid, and it ends up normally rent or utilities or food. It's not uncommon to have a woman say that she's ate popcorn for 2 or 3 days so she could put food on the table for her children. So soup kitchens are something that's going to be here for a day or 2 yet.
Conrad, could you describe what you've observed there? I think you volunteered there for 2 years.
Right.
Could you elaborate on that? I know you talked about it some, but...
Well, I guess a typical day is we'll meet at the center at 10 a.m. and we'll just drive down over there and we'll wash up, wash our hands, and get ready to serve. You don't find the people to be, what's the word I want to use? They're not just helpless. They're quite lively, they're quite sociable, and that's what makes it even more amazing. You realize that they're just not the person sticking out his hand on the sidewalk and just going, food, food. You can hold conversations. They're normal people, and that's probably the most poignant thing that I gathered from that. They're not the paupers or the Eddie Murphy in the movies acting like some poor guy, some stereotypical creature that's out there. It's very real, and it's quite touching, and in a way you feel sort of ashamed that these people who are simply hungry cannot be fed, save for soup kitchens. So it's a life lesson you just don't get from a classroom at UT. I've taken sociology courses where they spit out statistics at you and you go, yeah, right, okay. But then when you're finally out there and it hits you right in the face, that's when you begin to notice a little bit. And it doesn't leave you for a while. It hasn't left me for the last 2 years. So yeah, that's pretty much what it's like for an outside person coming in to experience.
Now, Pat, the Baptist Community Center is more family-oriented, so you don't see the homeless as clientele as much.
Correct.
Am I correct?
But we see a lot of hurting families who are just having hard times meeting needs. And like last year, we saw we assisted 2,666 families. And you can multiply that by 5 to be over 13,000 people. And of that number, 1,990 were helped with food baskets. So that's a great need, and that was one of our peak years in helping people. So it's just not among the homeless. It's in families too.
So in the 24 years that you've been director, last year was the biggest year?
Yes.
That's amazing. What do you think led to that?
Well, I think just lack of jobs, lack of employment is one of the reasons. Not enough money. Even when people are working, it's like Brother Frank said, they're working oftentimes at minimum wages, and there just isn't enough money to pay the rent, pay the utilities, and buy the gasoline and the doctor bills and put food on the table. So not only not having jobs, but just not having enough funds and having those emergencies arise. Oftentimes your poor families just aren't prepared for those emergencies. And almost in every family, you can expect 1 or 2 of those every month. And so when you're working at a lower paid job, it really hurts if someone gets ill and you can't buy the medicine, or if you buy the medicine, then you can't buy the food. So some of those are the factors that play into that.
Now, Frank, Conrad talked about the interaction with the homeless or the people in need as making the problem more human. Do you see that as well?
Yes, I tell the volunteers as they come. Conrad made reference to our philosophy of we will not ever serve anything that we would not serve to Jesus Christ our Lord. And so we approach everybody as created in the image of God and as a human being just like us. And I tell volunteers that except by God's grace that we could be on the other side of the window receiving the tray. And the volunteers are always amazed at how grateful the homeless and the hungry are. And until you've went out and sat and talked to families that have small children and see, first of all, how embarrassed they are that they have to go out to the community to eat. I was, just a couple weeks ago, we had an entire family came by to eat with us, and they could not really hold their head up and look us straight in the eyes as they went through the serving line. And then as they sat down at the table, they really didn't want to look up and look around. They just were embarrassed. It's in our society, we're so geared that anyone can grab a hold of their boots and pull themselves up and can take care of themselves. But that's not always true. And it's an illusion that we push off, and the pride keep an awful lot of people from seeking out their real needs. And there are a lot of resources in our community to meet those needs. And chapel and the community center is just one of many. But as Conrad will tell you, you will have more people come back by the line and tell you thank you than a lot of restaurants or a lot of even church dinners I've been at. The people are just more courteous and more grateful.
Conrad, do you think that if more people did this kind of service work, or at least were exposed more often to the real need and the fact that these people are people just like everyone else, do you think more people would be willing to work towards solutions?
Absolutely. I've yet to take anyone to the soup kitchen for the first time and have them say, this was a horrible experience. I can't face this. I can't deal with this. Everyone, for the most part, they're transformed, or they're just enlightened. And I think it connects them more with humanity, with to see that we're all God's children, essentially. And right now, I'd just like to make a pitch on behalf of the Austin Baptist Chapel. I don't know, I didn't think Frank was going to do it, but I received in the mail from the Austin Baptist Chapel an invitation to buy a ticket for a unique banquet that the Austin Baptist Chapel is throwing. Now, what makes it unique is that you pledge or you donate $20 and you simply don't show up. And in substitution for a banquet that might have normally gone on, the money will go towards actually buying the structure, the Austin Baptist Chapel, so that they can continue to do the service and and all those good things for the people that need it. Maybe Frank might want to elaborate on it. I'm going based on the letter that I received.
You've rented the property beforehand?
No, we joined hands with St. Matthew's Episcopal Church, and they provided the facility, and we provided the monies to pay utilities and insurance and to provide all the food and everything. And St. Matthew's Episcopal Church had this building donated to them 5 or 6 years ago when we were in our boom days, and it's been for sale all this time, and now they want to get serious about selling it, so we've agreed to purchase it, and we need to raise the money between now and December 20th to pay them for the building. We've agreed on a price, and so I came up with the idea of having this unique banquet, and the $20 the tickets cost, instead of you coming to a banquet, you supply the $20 so that the hungry and homeless of Austin will have a permanent facility in the years ahead to come for food.
Well, we're nearing the end of the show, and so I'd like to ask for concluding remarks. And Pat, would you begin?
Well, it's a real joy to serve in this capacity. I have been there a long time, and it continues to be a very rewarding experience, and I thank God for the opportunity. And I really commend our Southern Baptist people in our Austin area. They have been very supportive, and the volunteers and the churches, they're the ones that really make it go, and I really commend them for their fine support in all our endeavors.
So you have a lot of volunteers that
Yes, we do.
contribute to the...
During a year, we might have as many as, like last year, we had about 354 that contribute over 5,000 hours of volunteer work. So they're to be commended for what they do all year long, because without them, we couldn't do it.
Now, Conrad, would you sum up?
Well, as far as I'm connected with the university community, with the Austin community, I will continue to visit the Austin Baptist Chapel and things and services like that. I'd just like to thank Frank for actually donating his time and his life, his mission to starting things like this, so that volunteers such as myself, which can just come in and do everything, not do everything, but actually have things ready for us to do, and participate in that way.
Well, thank you all, and after having had this view of service work in East Austin, we must now unfortunately bring today's show to a close. In so doing, we would like to thank Frank Deutsch, Pat Musto, and Conrad Gonzalez for the information and insights which each of you has provided. On behalf of the Austin Metropolitan Ministries, I'm Sarita Tamayo, thanking you for joining us and inviting you to be with us next week at this same time. Good day.
Austin Metropolitan Ministries at 472-7627.